Hello students, today we are going to start the last chapter of our syllabus, server-side scripting using PHP. The purpose of this chapter is to become a full-fledged web developer with proper knowledge and understanding about server-side scripting, PHP with database connectivity. In this lesson, we are going to study the features of PHP, PHP variables and data types, PHP arrays which may be single dimensional and multi-dimensional, string function and user-defined functions, PHP form handling and PHP connectivity with database server. Unfortunately, multi-dimensional array and PHP connectivity with database server. These two topics are dropped from our this year's exam. But I will suggest you to go for these topics to full-fledged or to complete the connectivity with the website. Server-side scripting languages are programming languages developed especially for creating HTML web pages or websites on the server side. These languages usually provide special libraries that facilitate creating HTML pages. Scripting languages are of two types. First one is server side and second one is the client side. We already studied the client-side scripting language, that is the JavaScript. Today we are going to study the server-side scripting language. Let's see the basic difference in between these two languages. First of all, here some topics are given and depending on these topics, specific difference is specified. First topic is basic. For basic, server-side scripting works in the backend which could not be visible at the client end. Backend means whatever the data is processed at the backside of the program that is not visible for the client end. For example, as you are working in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you are just performing the actions but you don't know actually what is happening behind the screen or behind the program. That behind activity is known as the backend. Then basic for client side is client side works at the front end and scripts are visible among the users. Okay, whatever the working is done under the client side, that is visible for all. Then processing. Server side requires server interaction while client side does not require any server interaction. Languages involved in server side are PHP, ASP.NET, Ruby on Rails, Cold Fusion, Python, etc. While client side languages are HTML, CSS we already studied in our first lesson. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, used to support the special effects to the websites. Then JavaScript, etc. All these are the client-side scripting languages. Then affect. Client-side scripting languages could effectively customize the web pages and provide dynamic website. Now, by using server-side scripting languages, we can provide customized effect with and which makes the websites as a dynamic website where you can interact as a both way from the customer to the website as well as website to the customer. Therefore, it is known as the dynamic websites. But client-side scripting can reduce the load to the server. As client-side scripting does not interact with the server naturally, it reduces the load to the server. Then securities are more for the server side scripting language. That means server-side scripting language is relatively more secure than the client-side scripting language. If you have to perform specific important things, or if you have to hide the password, or if you have to write the program to store your passwords or something special, that time you can prefer server-side scripting language and not the client-side scripting language. Also, we have studied that client-side scripting language is interpreted. Similarly, server-side scripting languages are also interprets. But when these programs gets interpreted, client-side scripting language does not require any interface. You can see its output directly in your current browser. It may be Internet Explorer or it may be Google Chrome. But for server-side scripting language, after its interpretation, it requires a special interface. It may be Apache, or we are going to study all about these interactivities or interfaces, and these interfaces are required, and without that interfaces we cannot see the output of these server-side scripting languages. These are some of the basic differences in between the server-side and client-side scripting languages. Got it? Here it is just shown in the pictorial format. User. Here first of all server side. User interacts with the browser. Browser sends that data to the server. Server executes that data, sends its output to the browser, and browser shows it to the user. This is the server side's programming concept. But in client side, user provides data to the browser, browser executes it and then sends output to the user immediately. Server is not interacted in this client-side scripting language. Thus we can say that server-side scripting language is four-way process, while client-side scripting language is only two-way or two-step process. Then next thing, we already gone through this thing, just revise it. First of all, server. It is a computer system that serves as a central repository of the data and programs shared by clients. In short, we can say that it is a centralized system which administrates everything within that network. Okay. Server is the centralized system. Whatever the different activities are performing within that network, all that activities get administrated by the server. That network may include a different number of clients, different number of nodes, different number of peripherals such as webcam, printer, or whatever it may else. All that things gets administrated by the server, as server is the centralized system. Then next concept is web server. The server side environment that runs a scripting language is known as web server. In short, what we can say, whatever the different server side programs we are running on the specific browser, that is known as the web server. Then here, working of PHP again shown. A user's request is fulfilled by running a script directly on the web server. Here user provides the request, that request gets fulfilled on the server, that server generates the dynamic web pages, and these dynamic web pages are sent to the client's browser. Client's browser displays it to the user. This is the working of the PHP or server-side scripting languages. It is usually used to provide interactive websites that interfaces with database or other data stored on the server. Here we are using the database stored on the server. It is not essential to store that data on client or user's browser. It is completely on the server, and user or client can interact with that server's database and design the different interactive and dynamic web pages. That is the main benefit of the server side scripting language. Few programming languages for server side scripting are PHP, Java, JavaScript programming languages, and Python. We are going to study in detail about PHP in our further lectures. Java and JavaScript programming language. These two are the different things. Python, we have studied at least introductory part of Python last year. Okay, we will stop here today. Today's exercise, list the server side programming language.